Hello, Tom Lebecchia here with the latest edition of the New Theory Podcast. So if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe on whichever listening platform you're hearing this, whether it be Libsyn, iTunes, etc. Today, we got a very special guest, Greg Kieser. Hopefully I say it correct. He's the founder of SuperSystemic.ly, or SuperSystemically. They are a Brooklyn think tank and angel investment firm, and they are dedicated to increasing humanity's readiness for the emergence of super intelligent entities through the study and spread of super systemic perspectives and innovation. So this is going to be an interesting discussion today. Greg, welcome to the New Theory Podcast. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you for having me on the show. Really appreciate it.
Okay, I fancy myself as a semi-intelligent person. I don't understand exactly what I just read. So walk us through it. So what are super intelligent machines? And then where's the technology at, and where's the technology going?
Sure. So a super intelligent machine is, at this point, still a theoretical entity that some people believe will emerge in the future. Some say 10 years, some say 20 years, some say never. And this is from experts. So experts are kind of all over the place in terms of when it's going to emerge. But a super intelligence is any machine that far exceeds humans, any and all humans in any and all disciplines in terms of intelligence. So you could think of Google Maps as a narrow intelligence, narrow artificial intelligence. You could even say super intelligence, because the ability for Google Maps to kind of define a pathway between you and another place is much greater than any human could ever do on their own. So in a sense, that technology is super intelligent. It's an artificial intelligence.
Okay.
So if you think, yep, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because in your book, Dear Machine, a letter to a super-aware intelligent machine, what's the contents of that letter? Is it a cautionary tale, or is it something a little bit more exciting and optimistic? Walk us through what that letter looks like.
Yeah, I'd say it's optimistic. Optimistic with caveats. Optimistic that over the long term, that super intelligence will bring a lot of efficiencies to things that humans currently do really inefficiently, in terms of food systems, in terms of economies, in terms of health, human health, etc., over the long term. But the problem is that we currently have those efficiencies in our systems, and my theory is that as they emerge, they will help us relieve us of those efficiencies, but in the interim, it's going to cause a lot of, I guess you would say, friction between us and those entities initially, even if we are unaware those entities are even there, if they're working in the background.
Okay, and then, like Elon Musk and some other super intelligent people have some concerns about the rise of, AI and some of these machines. What are some of the possible downfalls to some of these super intelligent machines? And if so, do you touch upon it, in your book?
Yeah, I do touch upon them in my book. I think, a couple of things that folks are saying, academics in this area, people like Elon Musk, et cetera, their concern is that superintelligence could get a goal like harvest as much solar power as possible and then just cover the earth in solar panels, so to the point that we decimate all life and humans on earth, et cetera. I don't really see that type of thing as a potential, and after spending a lot of time thinking about this and looking at all the different theories that people have and so forth, my feeling is that as these entities emerge, they will emerge with a good sense, thousands of different goals, tens of thousands of different goals, and seek to satisfy those goals mathematically, and in doing so, they will be inherently good for humanity over the long term.
Okay, so something a little better picture. So, what is an area that is either kind of benefiting now or will benefit in the near future, whether it be like an industry or space that is actually benefiting or has improved due to artificial intelligent machines?
Well, right now, I'd say some of the big leaps forward are in disease detection. So, for example, radiologist is something that's still the province of people who have gone to med school, human doctors who can identify cancer and other diseases in MRIs and other types of imaging technologies. But we're just getting to the point where artificial intelligence is getting better than those individuals. So they're finding cancer, they're identifying tools to remediate the cancer, whether it's diet, whether it's drugs, etc. So that's one area right now where we're just seeing the machines kind of passing humans in terms of capacity.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. And what about, your bio that you guys are also involved in the investment of? What are some of the specific areas you're looking at as an investor into this space?
Yeah, so I see one of the major issues that we're facing as superintelligence comes down the path is that there's a lot of mental illness in society. There's a lot of addiction, et cetera. And resolving those issues before superintelligence emerges, in my opinion, something that needs to be done. Because if you have, for example, if you have a superintelligence kind of plug into the current world, all the abuses that we have and so forth, I think could be magnified. And so with that in mind, I have two investments that I've already made, one of which is a company that is using psilocybin, the active ingredient in magic mushrooms, to remediate treatment-resistant depression. And they're doing large-scale clinical trials throughout Europe and America. They got FDA breakthrough status for this, for the trials. And that's going, I'd say, about 400 people. Early studies of this particular molecule have shown that people who have had depression for a very long time, so they're talking about people who have had depression for 20 years, have tried every drug on the market, etc. Early studies are showing a very powerful one treatment remedy for depression. It's not just giving people a pill, it's also managing the whole trip, etc., with therapists and so forth, and defining the color of the room, the music that's playing, etc., and the therapy that is delivered after, etc. And so that's one of the investments. You have any questions about that before I move on to the second one?
No. I just want to kind of get a flavor for where your thought
Sure.
is. Obviously, academically, where you're actually putting your dollars. Yeah, we'd love to hear about the second one as well.
Sure. The second one is kind of a treatment that I think most people would consider icky, but it's called fecal transplant, and essentially it's a treatment where doctors take the poop out of one person and put it inside of another person, and it's really kind of it defies kind of how we think about health and so forth, but it's turning out to be a very, very powerful tool for a number of different diseases. It's already got FDA approval for something called C. diff infection, so an infection of the digestive system that kills tens of thousands of people every year. And it has a very, very high success rate for that particular disease. But emerging research about the microbiome shows there's a lot of potential for many, many different diseases seem to be connected to the gut and the microbial diversity that we have in our body. For example, autism. Some people are seeing results with autism, even connections to schizophrenia, stuff like that that long have been thought to be solely diseases of the mind, are turning out to have a very strong connection to the gut. And so this particular treatment offers a lot of promise, in my opinion. And essentially what is happening is you have people with very unhealthy ecosystem of microbes in their gut, and that is essentially the source of the disease. And so doing the fecal transplant essentially plants a new rainforest inside of the gut of the individuals that have this disorder. And in doing so, it creates a much healthier environment for digestion of food. A lot of the microbes in our bellies emit all different kinds of neurochemicals and so forth, and so it creates a much healthier body on the whole. So
wow, that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, it's real. So
Yeah.
So this is what, I mean, I think with Deer Machine, what I'm trying to do is tie together what I see, and I'll kind of go on to the investments that I want to get into. What I see is that there's a common theme here, and it's that there's kind of complexity in our bodies and in nature and in our minds that is really underappreciated by our health systems and by our food systems, et cetera. And that the key to improving our world and preparing for superintelligence is to learn how to harness that power of that complexity. And these two investments in particular, I believe, do exactly that. The ones I'm looking to get into, for example, are regenerative agriculture. Is the one big one I think could have a huge impact on transforming our world. Obviously, agriculture is a huge burden on our ecosystems, on the climate, et cetera. And so we need to think of more powerful ways to, or more beneficial ways to produce food. And regenerative agriculture looks really interesting. What happens in this type of agriculture as opposed to planting a field of corn, a field of wheat, a field of soy, et cetera. You're creating ecosystems that have many different species of plants and animals interacting with it, and to produce the food that you harvest from these complex ecosystems. So typically this has been difficult to do. You know, when we were hunter-gatherers, we were going through the woods and we were kind of interacting with these ecosystems in a little more beneficial way, you could argue. Of course, there were many negative impacts or negative effects of that. But now we produce monocultures, and the machines we have farm equipment that helps us harvest these things, and so it would be very difficult to say take a 1,000-acre plot and turn it into a food forest, which is, you know, producing 20 to 30 different nuts and fruits and animals and so forth that we can eat. But my hope, and with investment and with some technology in the near future, we'll be able to do something like that using drones, robots, et cetera, to kind of initiate a more complex relationship with the ecosystems that produce our food, and use much less pesticide, capture much more carbon, increase the nutrient density of the foods that we're eating, et cetera, et cetera. So that's another big area that I haven't invested in yet, but I'm looking at different companies and initiatives that are trying to do this.
Love it. How can we find your book?
It's on Amazon, so if you just search for Deer Machine and Kieser, Kieser, it's quite easy to find.
Very nice. And we'll put a link to the book in the show notes. And Greg, thank you for being on the New Theory podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much.